for coming on. We're laughing. We're going to have to explain this now. We're laughing because I've just had loads of technical problems. And luckily, David knows what he's doing and he's had to sort it all out for me.
I've sorted you out, Sue. I've got to admit, I'm a little bit apprehensive of today as well, because I've interviewed you many, many times. I've interviewed you on my podcast. I've interviewed for books we've done. I've interviewed you stood in the middle of a field. And so usually it's the opposite way around. So I'm a little bit apprehensive of where this is going to go, because you are a nightmare. In the best possible way, because usually when I interview you, I have to do no preparation, because I know if I just ask you a question, you will just talk for the next 20 minutes. So it's absolutely great. But I'm guessing from the other side, I've been interviewed, I've no idea what this is going to be like. So be gentle with me, Sue.
This is. Do you know what? I was talking to someone yesterday about this. One of our mutual friends, Callum. And I said to him, because I went on his podcast yesterday, and he asked what I was doing, and I said, "Oh, I'm interviewing David tomorrow," and he said, "Amazing. Are you going to get the real David, or are you going to get the polished vegan business tribe?" And I said, "I'm going to get the real David. I'm going to get the real Dave." So
go for it.
Oh,
so
no,
Sue,
I'm so excited.
So Sue, what do you want to talk about?
Questions. Look, I've got a sheet full of them for you. You're not getting away with this. I tell you why I'm saying that, though, is because your podcast that you've done for years is fantastic. And like you say, I've been on a few times, and you interview great people, but also most of it is just talking about vegan business and well, that's a very crap summary of it. It's a brilliant podcast. But what I've loved is recently when we really have seen the real you, when you've been doing the podcasts about the incubator. And as a viewer, I have loved them. I've absolutely loved them. But it's been a very different way of you recording.
It's really interesting because so recently, I mean, just to give a little bit of context. So recently, Vegan Business Tribe, we were picked up by the ProVeg Kickstarting for Good Incubator. And that is an incubator where I think they had like 600-700 people applied for 25 positions on that. And, it's a fully funded incubator run by ProVeg for social entrepreneurs, people who are trying to make not-for-profits and charities. We're all taken as a group over to Berlin for several weeks. You put in up hotels, they pay for your flights and everything like that. And it's just an absolutely amazing thing to be part of. It's the sort of thing which I never thought I'd be part of, at this point of my career. And what I really wanted to do was, because of what I do, and because I am an educator, I like to teach people, I thought, if I'm going to go through all this, and I'm going to be learning all this stuff from this business incubator, but this business incubator for our sector, for the vegan sector, I need to take my Vegan Business Tribe members with me. I need to take my tribe along. So I said, can I record a video diary going through this incubator of what you're teaching me, what we're going through? And actually, it's not been the content which has been most viewed on our Vegan Business Tribe website, but it's been the content that I've had the most comments about and the most people have reached out to me about and talked to me about. And I've learned a lot of lessons from that, because like you say, a lot of the content we do, it is extraordinarily polished. It's got really high production values. We interview some great people. But as part of that, I've got a persona that I put on. I've got this persona of, hey, I'm David Pannell from Vegan Business Tribe. We're here to support you and to inspire you. That's how I do my podcast. Don't give me that, Sue. That's how I do my podcast. But when you're doing a video diary and when you're recording that pretty much every day, and you're just kind of grabbing 5 minutes when you've got your phone handy, you can't be like that. And I might have been like that for the first 2 or 3 maybe, but that just kind of all falls away. So yeah, it was really nice to do that. It was really nice to get some feedback. And I think what we might do is we might continue some kind of behind the scenes video diary of Vegan Business Tribe, especially we've got so much happening this year, just to take the lessons of what we learned from doing that kind of content, which was a little bit more genuine and a little bit more, the real me perhaps.
Yeah, I loved it. I just thought it was just so nice I really felt like we'd gone along with you, really did. Even the little things like when you were in the cafe and you were talking and you were saying, oh, the one that I love, somebody had stolen the table that you liked, and I was like, oh this is brilliant. Because we all have things like that. We all have our own little idiosyncrasies, and just to hear, is that the right word? And to hear it coming from you, I was just like, this is just so good, because you are so polished and you're so good at what you do. But yeah, unlike me.
And that happens all the
So
time.
it's,
I mean, it's really, I did think about contacting Starbucks to try and get some sponsorship. The amount of time I was talking about them in my incubator video diary, you know, about the, because I'm sure we're going to go to lots of things today, but I've got, we've got a young daughter, Arwen, who's just coming up to 2 years old, and I work from home, and she's just got to the point now where she knows she can come and knock on the office door, and if she keeps knocking, but at some point Daddy has to answer. So when I need to get something done, I'll go off to my local Starbucks and just go and work there instead.
yeah, the joys of working from home. Well, a massive question I was about to ask you was about Arwen, and how you found such a huge change to your working life, I guess, because of being, you know, becoming a father and working from home. It impacts it so greatly. But are you finding that you're able to, if she does interrupt, be sort of just like, oh, it's just, you know, it's one of the things, I've got to get used to it?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think the journey with myself and my wife Lisa have been through the last couple of years. It's been an interesting journey, because I'm already a father. I've already got my family. You know, my two eldest children are both heading off to university this year. My eldest Daisy is 21. She's already financially looking after herself. She bought herself her Audi as her first car because she's been working full time. You know, so I got to that point in my life where I was kind of that close. You know, from a financial point of view. Couple of years left on the mortgage, kids earning their own money, got to that point where you know, you can start planning ahead, and then we decided let's just start all over again, and now we've got Arwen. So it's, you know, that whole idea of what happens and what changes in your life when that happens is massive, because for us to, you know, keep Arwen at home, and this is a conversation that I want to go into about that whole idea of being a vegan and a parent as well. It means that my wife Lisa, she's only working a couple of hours a week at the moment. She's looking after Arwen. We are potentially looking at homeschooling Arwen, which is just a massive financial catastrophe, however you want to approach homeschooling. You know, and that's just a real change to your life. But I think if you've got your own business, which I have, and which I know you've always had your own businesses as well, you kind of have to reap some of those benefits of having your own business. There's no point in having a business and just going off to an office every day, not seeing your family, having to work 9 to 5, being there Monday to Friday. You've got to reap some of the benefits, because it is so hard. It is so hard running your own business that if you can say, right, okay, Thursdays, I don't work Thursdays. I'm going to go take my daughter swimming Thursdays, which is what I do. You know, or I'm going to finish early on a day and we're just going to all go to the park together. Or we're going to take a holiday, you know, when it's term time for everybody else. So yeah, that whole idea of mixing that work-life balance with kids and with your own businesses, yeah, it's massively hard, but you've got to reap some of those benefits that comes with it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I being able to juggle it around, as you say, it's hard when you work for someone else, but to do it, you just having that flexibility. Well, it's not flexibility, is it? It's being organised when you've got a business. It's not, people assume that because you're running a business, it's like, oh, it's easy because you're at home anyway. And it's actually, I think, the opposite. It is so much easier to go away and be in an office somewhere, because you can just shut the door and say, oh, right, well, you know, they're at home now. And it's so difficult. I've done both with my child, and yeah, I've had a business where I worked away and worked from home, and but you're right, to be able to do that, especially like you say, your Thursdays, and it gives Lisa a break then as well.
Yeah, a little bit.
If she's full-time mom.
It is, but we also want Arwen to be part of what we're doing. You know, we send kids off, and the reason that most people don't start businesses is because they don't see businesses being run and being started. You know, I grew up not really knowing what my parents did as a job. And whereas with Arwen, she's seeing it. So, you know, we go to so many different vegan events, and we go to, you know, different parts of the world with it. We go to all over the UK with it. And she normally comes along with us. And she's become a little bit more of a star than I am now. You know, she absolutely loves dancing. She loves singing. I know that you know vegan Queen V very well. She loves vegan Queen V. Ever since she saw...
Yeah. They all love vegan Queen V.
Yeah.
But the kids love her. Brilliant.
But ever since she saw Jen singing into a microphone at one of the vegan fairs we were at, she just about all day, every day. We had to buy her a microphone so she could pretend to be Jen. And she just sings into that microphone and she pretends to be her. And, so we want Arwen to be part of what we're doing, because I think a lot of the skills that you learn at school, they're not that applicable to the life that we lead these days. I want Arwen, by the time she's 5, to understand how to create content, to put videos online. I want her to have her own revenue streams coming in, even if only tiny little things that she's earning money online. That's going to be so much more useful to her in life for learning a lot of things that we learn at school. And yes, some of that things might take her on a different sort of career that we wouldn't teach her at home, but I wanted to have some of those skills. I wanted to be entrepreneurial like I was, because I think if I'd have been raised that way, I'd have done a lot more, a lot younger, and not be sort of like at this point in my life, trying to set up new businesses and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you kind of answered a question I got for you, which was why you've chosen homeschool, and whether it was to take her out of the system or for that. And yeah, you've perfectly summed it up. It's a brilliant idea. And as you say, for her to see you working is perfect, isn't it? And encourage her, and just to make her understand the way the world works a little bit, which I think is just so lacking in education now.
It is as well. But I mean, yes, it is to take her out of the system too. And, I don't particularly like that word, the system, because it makes us sound like nuts, doesn't it? But, the only reason that we accept killing and farming animals is because we were indoctrinated as children that was just normal. And, the whole idea of a thing on your plate and the fluffy animal in the field, they've been severed since you're tiny. And animal agriculture propaganda, and that word propaganda is really loaded as well, but I'm going to use it. Animal agriculture propaganda, that has really permeated early years education. And we had a discussion, myself and my wife Lisa, and we just said that we weren't willing to put Arwen into that kind of environment until she had the tools to defend herself against it. And, even so, the fact that Lisa is raising Arwen full time, we still go to children's groups and she still gets involved in activities. But, Lisa took Arwen to the library story group this morning, and the book they were reading was Down on the Farm, about all these lovely fluffy farm animals living this beautiful life with these farmers and that. And what Lisa always says, she says, unless this farm book says that the animals get killed at the end, we're not going to be reading that to Arwen. And, we'll go off to like one of the children's groups and she'll come back singing Bar Bar Black Sheep and things like that. So, even though we have as much as we can removed Arwen from that system, it's still getting through to us. It's still permeating that much that it's so hard. And so it is. And so to put her into a nursery system that is also reinforcing all that's also, promoting dairy milk to the children, that's all also, feeding them ham sandwiches and cheese, and kids are coming in with chocolate cakes for their birthdays, and Arwen's been made to feel the odd one out and stuff like that. I just can't do it to her. I just can't do it to her until she can stand and argue the vegan cause with somebody. That's when I'd be a lot happier to put into that kind of mainstream system.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful way of looking at it. It's one of the things I remember years ago you saying to me and to saying to us as a group in one of your meetings was about how we need to change the narrative, the really basic narrative of the words we use, like not using the term "I'll be a guinea pig." Those things, and it's something that I try and do all the time, and I feel myself slip up, and I go, oh, and then I'll correct myself in sort of live time. Somebody said, oh, I shouldn't really say that, and I said it to someone yesterday. I said, oh, don't let the cat out the bag, and I was like, oh, cats shouldn't be in bags, but you got me thinking about that years ago, and you are right, and that's exactly what she's going to pick up. The way of thinking and these sayings just become so normalised.
Yeah, it is. And I love swapping out those sayings as well, because people double take when you say them. I say things like, don't put all your berries in one basket. And what? It's just got that moment of kind of, but sometimes it allows you to have a conversation as well. But it is. And, that whole idea of kind of changing the wording that we use. I mean, explaining veganism to children, I kind of didn't know I was going to be coming on to talk about children so much, but, explaining veganism to children, it's so simple, because every child is vegan. Absolutely every child is vegan. If you say to a child that a vegan is somebody who thinks it's wrong to hurt or kill animals, every child would go, well, I'm a vegan then. And it's only because, that has been hidden from them. And if I look at my kind of own journey into veganism, the overriding emotion that I felt, when I turned vegan and when I finally really kind of understood the food system was anger. Just anger that it had been hidden, anger that all that had been taken away from me. And, when you've got that much anger and you are new to veganism, you kind of just have to do something with that anger as well. And I think my own story as an activist ties into what lots of other people have done as well. That idea that they just got really angry, that they've been fooled for so long, felt really ashamed by it as well, and then just had to do something with it.
Completely. I think shame and guilt you still see every day, don't you, vegans? And it can be so triggering for people, and just trying to, as you say, to channel that. And it's not easy. Yeah, and you just have to take a step back sometimes, don't you? And think, actually, do you know what? That was the old me, and I've apologised for that, and I will make amends for that for the rest of my life now. But you have to give yourself a bit of a break. We were all indoctrinated into it. And I love the fact that we've got people like you and these little children coming through now that are going to be vegan from birth. It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredibly exciting.
It is incredible. But again, as vegan parents, we're having to negotiate challenges that we didn't even think about. I mean, family challenges. We're quite fortunate. A lot of our family are kind of vegan friendly, as you'd imagine, with what me and Lisa do as our living. Some of our family aren't very vegan friendly, and they're quite standoffish about the fact. But I remember what one of our family members asked us, what if Arwen wanted to try meat when they're older, just to see what it's like? Will you let them do that? And Lisa didn't know how to answer that. And she came and told me about that conversation later. And I said, well, with everything that we're teaching Arwen about the food system, if she, when she grows up, then wants to try meat, she's a psychopath. There's no two ways about it, because she'll know what it is. It's a bit like saying, if your child wanted to stab somebody when they're older, just see what it's like. Will you let them do that? And it's kind of, well, no, of course we won't. And so yeah, it does bring all these things, but it just reframes so much. And you kind of have to reach out to other people, because it took me 10 years to go vegan, and it was a really long kind of journey, and I went through all kind of different stages and things like that. So I think when I'm talking to somebody who isn't vegan, I can't take that moral high ground with them, because I didn't turn fully vegan until I was 40. And so if I'm speaking to somebody, there's a good chance that I've eaten more animal products than they have. So I can't be there on my moral high ground saying, oh, it's wrong, you've got to give up meat. I've got to lead them through that same journey that I went through. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. And, talking about children again, my two older children, they're not vegan. One is very vegan friendly, and they're both happy to eat vegan when they're with me, but they're not vegan. And they say, well, we eat meat because that's how you raised us. You raised us as meat eaters, because I was a meat eater at the time. And so I'm having to do all sorts of education with them to kind of lead them along the same journey that I went through myself. And so, yeah, how can I take them all high ground? I think you really have to understand that the person you're talking to, you've got to remember that you were where they are, and you learned a series of things. You had things happen in your life to bring you along to where you are now. You've got to lead them along the same path. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think you're right. Straight from nursery, you're going to have problems. I remember having problems with Purse when she was little. And homeschooling is not easy at all. But I think from at least, as you say, you can impart your ethics and see where they go. But there's no way she'll want to eat meat. Surely. There's no way she'll get to...
She'll be out if she does. It's not something I'll stand for. Yeah. And parents say to us, and again, we've had people saying, but on social media, but it's wrong that you're putting you're forcing your values and ethics and opinions onto your children. But that's what we do with our children. We raise them to the ethics and values that we believe in. So there you go. Anyway.
Yeah,
kids.
no, it's thank you for sharing it with us, because you're exactly right. That's exactly what we do, isn't it? And that's what meat teasers are doing. Is saying to their children, well, this is what you need to eat because, and it's terrifying. How I'm going to say something now that you're going to cringe at. I know you will. I heard you recently say that you don't like animals.
Oh man!
And I was like, this is
I'll tell
great.
you what, this is a fascinating conversation. Now, this is something that I've only been confident enough to say over the last few months. And we talked earlier about the ProVeg Incubator that I was part of in Berlin. We got to meet some amazing people at that incubator. And one guy who we met, he set up a company helping animal investigators. So the people who go sometimes uninvited into animal agriculture, into factories and things like that, to kind of monitor what's happening to those animals, get some of that footage. He has an organisation which helps and supports these people because, you know, they're seeing the sort of things that nobody wants to see. And somebody asked him, they said to him, how can you do that? How can you go into these places and record that suffering without it just wiping you out and you refusing to go back again? And he just said, well, I've never really particularly liked animals. And I was like, what? So you're vegan? You're doing this as your entire career? You're actually, you know, legally in quite a grey ground here. You could easily get arrested doing what you're doing. And you don't even particularly like animals. And you say, no, but it's just wrong. And I don't particularly need to like animals to know it's wrong. And that kind of just so clicked with me because I think as vegans, people quite often say, oh, yes, I was always an animal lover. I was always, you know, I always had these animals growing up and I made that connection between the dog that I loved and the sheep that I was eating, etc., etc. And none of that really ever happened to me. I've got to admit, I've been bitten by several dogs in my life. My brother's dogs bit me. An office dog we had bit me. You know, I got bitten a few times as a kid. I don't like cats. And the feeling is mutual. They absolutely hate me. So I've never really... Yeah, cats absolutely hate me. So I've never been an animal lover. Now, I don't dislike animals. And I think, you know, they can be very cute and they can be great companions. And they've obviously got a place in our lives. But I've never described myself as an animal lover. But I didn't realise until that point, when I was listening to this guy talk, that that's fine. That as a vegan, you don't necessarily have to be an animal lover. And somebody might ask me, then why the hell do you do what you do? Why have you built a career in the vegan and animal advocacy sector if you're not an animal lover? And it's a bit like, you know, I've got no particular love for people from Belgium. But if I discovered that we'd built a food system
What's wrong with Belgium?
on them... No, but if I discovered that we'd built a food system around people from Belgium... I'd be campaigning to stop that as well because it's just wrong. You know, and so for me, it was just the whole injustice that I could not live with what was happening to animals, what we were doing with animals, even though particularly I will probably never have a dog in my life. I'll probably never, you know, have cats and things like that living in the house with me. But I still think that what we do to farmed animals is absolutely atrocious and it needs to stop. And that's why I'm vegan. And that's why I do everything I can to promote veganism and animal rights.
Well, that was kind of why I asked you, really, because we were talking about Owen, and I just thought, I wonder if she'll grow up and be like, I want a pet. I want a companion animal. And I think that can be quite divisive in the vegan community anyway. I'm a strong believer that we shouldn't have companion animals. It's too bad on the environment, and we're just enslaving. It's another form of enslavement. But there are so many rescues out there that, you know, that we do have them. But it's just so refreshing to hear somebody come out and say it. Somebody in your position to come out and say it. And I think we need to have those conversations as a community. Yeah. Because if we don't know where we all stand, and of course there can be different opinions on that, but if we don't have those conversations in our own community, how are we ever going to speak to people on the other side that are eating meat? Because
I'm not vegan because I love animals. I'm vegan because it's just wrong. You know, and I think that's much more powerful message. It's a much more powerful message.
I think it is. You're vegan because it's the right thing to do.
Exactly. Yeah. Let me show you this. Let me educate you on what's happening, because, you know, one of the videos that turned me vegan, it was and I still remember it, and you know, when I'm telling people my vegan story, because I went vegetarian first, and, you know, went through all that kind of meat reduction and then dairy reduction and things like that, and I was just searching for some kind of recipe that I think I wanted to find a replacement when I was making spag bol or something like that, because I didn't want to put meat in it. And I remember I was watching a few YouTube videos, and one of the videos that just popped up as the next video was all these lovely fluffy little chicks. And I was like, "Whoa, this is quite cute. What's this?" And they're like, "Chip, chip, chip, chip." That's lovely. And then I realised they were going along a conveyor belt. So I'm like, "Oh, what's this?" And are they going on a ride? And then they went into a macerator at the end. And I was like, "What?" And I was just, I was thinking, what kind of backwards third world horrible place is doing this to animals, and it was a UK egg manufacturer. It was their plant. And I was like, what the hell is going on here? I didn't realise this happened. And it's just because, again, the male chicks, they're seen as a waste product. And when we get to that point that, life is seen as a waste product, something is significantly wrong there. So yeah, that argument about, it's got nothing to do with me wanting to save all the animals and hug them and cuddle them. It's just because it's wrong. Although I do have a soft spot for pigeons. Which you and I have had this conversation.
Yes, you do. Everyone's got a soft spot for pigeons.
And
pigeons are the key.
That's purely because a pigeon adopted us for several months. He came and lived on our balcony of our apartment, and I did get quite. We called it Captain, and I did get quite fond of that pigeon. But yeah, only because they're just quite funny, intelligent things. But yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, they're amazing. Pigeons are the key to everything. If we can get more people to like pigeons, then they'll understand humanity more. I remember talking to you about your pigeon. Have you got, because you've moved house since then, have you got new pigeons where you are now?
No, we haven't, unfortunately. So yeah.
Do you want some?
Right. Have you got some that need looking after? Yeah. got a field full.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I remember your pigeon. Oh, bless. With that in mind, the people that are joining the vegan business tribe now, are you seeing a shift in the reason why they're starting vegan businesses? Have you seen a big change since you've been doing that? Are they coming to starting businesses because of animal rights, or are there more environmental people now? Or
It's interesting, because I think one of the conversations we have a lot at Vegan Business Tribe with our members is our members don't know whether they should be overt about having a vegan business. Because I think if you're making a food product, it's quite easy to say, well, it is not a vegan business. If you're making vegan donuts or something like that, that's quite an easy cut and dry conversation. But I think there's a lot of kind of fear out there that if somebody puts their ethics to the front, and if you look at someone like Keith Lesser, and Keith is absolutely brilliant. So he runs a company called Vegan Accountants. He has absolutely stamped the vegan on there because he's got an accountancy firm, but he's got a separate arm of it, which it's got vegan accountants working within it. They work for vegan clients. He's called it Vegan Accountants, and he has really put his sort of like original accountancy firm at reputational risk there, because he gets a lot of backlash from non-vegans. He's appeared in a few different news stories and things like that. I think he, just like you did, he appeared in the Daily Mail for what he was doing and for some controversy and things like that too. So it's quite an interesting conversation to have, saying, am I going to put my livelihood on the line to actually embrace my vegan ethics as a business as well? And it's a hard decision to make. But one thing I'll always say is, if you consider yourself to be an activist, when do most activists do their activism? It's in the evenings, it's on the weekends, it's kind of, when you can fit it in around your day job. If you can actually make that activism, if you can bring it together, your activism with how you make a living, then you're going to have a far bigger impact, because you're actually spending all day, every day being an activist. And so, 100%, it's a great way to do it. But, whether or not that kind of needle is changing a little bit from people saying, well, I want a vegan business for environmental reasons, I want it for animal rights reasons. I think most of the people that we see at Vegan Business Tribe, it's about the animals. It's the animals first. But when they're presenting that business to the world, sometimes that's not the message that people want to hear. So they will present to say, look, we are an ethical design agency, for instance, or we are we're working to improve people's health as a dietitian. Now, it just so happens that the healthiest diet you could get is a plant-based diet, so that's why I promote plant-based. So there's a little bit of vegan by stealth going on there. But I think the people behind it, if you're going to start a business, you've kind of got to want to do it for the cause rather than just the environmental and the health aspects as well. Right,
yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It's terrifying to me that we now have to be vegan by stealth because of the way that that vegans are being portrayed in the media, and the horrible meat washing that's going on is exhausting. It's terrifying that it's like, look, we're just trying to do the right thing here, and you almost want to be able to just leave us to it. Obviously, that's not what we want to do, but it is terrifying that businesses, and there's been a few, haven't there, that change names.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's caught us out as a movement as well. And, I know Matthew Glover quite well, who founded Veganuary, and he came down. He was on one of our panels down at London last year, was that. And he was talking about this, and he was talking about how we weren't ready as a movement for the fight back, that we've taken on one of the biggest industries in the world. The people who are feeding the world, and they're normally doing it with animal products. Of course, they're going to fight back. And they have got more money than we could ever dream of to do it. If you look at the US, they have things that are called checkoff campaigns. And checkoff campaigns means that for take beef. So for every cow that's sold in the beef industry in the US, they have to give, and I don't know the exact figure, but they have to give something like $1 into promoting that industry. It's just one of the industry-wide regulations. So that money, that is used to get more people to eat meat. It's used to protect the industry. It's used for lots of different campaigns. And I'm sure that lots of those resources go into funding, the studies that we see and, promoting that false narrative about meat and things like that. So how can we be up against that when, as a movement, we've got millions to spend and that industry has billions to spend? They're going to change people's perceptions. And I've had this conversation so much about, ultra-processed food. I was at, gosh, it was a Vegan Kids Festival last year. And one of the people actually who's working on the site, so nobody to do with the festival, they were just one of the people who were like the handyman on the site and saw we were a load of vegans having fun. He goes, I'd never eat vegan food because it's always ultra-processed. And I was like, get your phone out. Google top ultra-processed foods. And number 1, meat.
Really?
Number 2.
So what comes up on Google? I've never done it.
Number 2, bread, supermarket bread. Number 3, hot dogs. Crisps. That is the most unhealthy ultra-processed food. If it's vegan and it's ultra-processed, there's probably a good chance it's actually going to be quite healthy ultra-processed. I mean, ultra-processed isn't a bad thing. If you're buying a car, that is ultra-processed. It's been through millions of processes to build that car. Some food, if you're trying to mimic meat with vegetables, we've got a job to do there. That's going to have to go through a few processes. It doesn't mean that the thing coming out of the end is unhealthy. So ultra-processed on its own isn't necessarily unhealthy, but that narrative has just been hammered home. And I've so many people say that to me just over this last 12 months.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's it used to be where'd you get your protein, didn't it, in the bad old days? And now it's ultra-processed. And it just also, it's so sad that is what, when you think of food, that's the first thing that comes to that. Even like for a meat eater, they're not necessarily going to think about a piece of meat. They're going to think about a burger or a pie or a sausage roll. And that's not food. It's not food. That's not what we should be eating. And it's, And
I love it when somebody says to me, if you don't want to eat meat, why do you make your food look like meat? And I say, well why do you want to make an animal look like meat?
But why don't you just why don't you just bite straight into the cow? Why do you have to cook it?
You're saying that a vegan burger perhaps is ultra processed. What process do you think something's gone from being a live sentient animal in a field to now being a burger on your plate? You don't think that's ultra processed, and you don't think that's a little bit weird too. So I agree with you entirely. Next question, Sue. Go for it.
Terrifying.
I'll talk about this all day if not. I'll talk about this all day if not. Yeah, go for it.
This is the point. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. How do you find with you saying like you can talk about these things all day, when do you get to your point where you're like, right, I need to switch off now? I don't mean from work, because I know you and I are similar in that we don't really need to switch off from work because we're always like, I've got another area, I've got an idea, but from veganism, do you find that you get to a point where you're like, I can't see anymore? Like I'm done for now. I just need a break.
I tell you what, I've seen so many people go through that, and I've seen so many, leaders of our movement go through that as well. I think because I am in the fortunate position that I spend so much of my time around other vegans, whether that is because we run vegan business tribes. I've got hundreds of members there who are all vegan, and I've got meetings with them all the time. We run sessions with them. But I go to so many different vegan events, just going to the Vegan Kids Festival. And if you've been listening to this and you're interested in what we've been saying about, vegan children, go look up the Vegan Kids Festival. It is just an absolute paradise. And because I spend so much of my time in the company of vegans, that's the normal to me now. That is the norm. It's actually rare that I'll have to defend my veganism. It's probably only with a few family members that I'll have conversations with. Usually in my day-to-day life, I live in my lovely vegan bubble. So yeah, I don't get to that point where I think, oh, I've just had enough of this, I don't want to talk about it anymore. Because normally I don't. Because if I'm in a room with other vegan, my whole family's vegan, my wife's vegan, you don't sit there kind of talking about vegan issues. It's just normal. I mean, in our household, I encouraged Lisa to stop putting vegan in front of words about, vegan milk or vegan, vegan cake or vegan food. We don't need that word anymore. So we know that if we're talking about milk, we're talking about soy milk or oil milk or one of the plant milks. So yeah, I don't have that where I need to escape it because I've already escaped it.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because I feel the same because I'm surrounded. All my work generally is with vegans, even though I do run the shop and I talk to non-vegans. But generally, it's I'm surrounded by vegans. I'm interviewing vegans. I'm talking to vegans, and but I've got a friend who's a school teacher and had a meltdown last week because of just having to listen to that just crap all day and not being able to say anything about it. And she looks after really like children Owen's age, nursery, and she just it's tragic what we're doing to them. It's absolutely tragic. So it's interesting, isn't it? How like when you're in it, we're in this little bubble, so you can just thrive on that because you're surrounded by all these people doing amazing things. And
it is, but also when I'm not talking to vegans, they're the weird ones to me, because they're the minority of people that I interact with, and I don't spend much time on social media. I know that we all have to post on social media, but I don't go through reading stuff on social media. Lisa does, and she sends me screen grabs here and there and talk about teachers. She had one where a vegan had gone into a standard parenting group instead of one of the vegans in parenting groups on Facebook, I think it was, and just had a conversation about what we're doing, for instance, that she wasn't sure about putting her child into school. And within that parenting group, a teacher answered and they said, I feel really bad for all the vegan kids at our school. They're always malnourished. What you do is you'll find that they'll... Yeah, absolutely. And you'll find that they'll be like putting chicken nuggets in their pockets because they don't get food like that at home. And just, it's rubbish. It's absolute rubbish.
I mean, that's disgusting, isn't it? Yeah.
It is. And had that question been asked about any other ethical belief, be it a religion or anything else, that person would have potentially lost their job if it had been, taken to their school.
It is
but that's what you've got.
Absolutely mind-blowing to me. Yeah, that you can be a professional in a professional career and say whatever you like about veganism and it just stands because, it's shocking, isn't it? Absolutely shocking.
It's because we're too weak to hit them, that's why. From lack of protein.
No. Oh my God. Oh, I thought something I was going to ask you then, and then you've made me laugh and I've forgotten it now. So
good. Let's keep that going. Did you just fall off your stool?
I'm always falling. I fell off my stool 10 minutes ago, but I'm always falling off my stool. I've not even been drinking yet, David. I had to make a promise when I started doing this podcast that I wouldn't drink during it, really. So I'm on the tea because the other podcast that I do, Waffle and Quack, I drink. Like the whole premise of that is that I drink all the way through it. So I was like, no, I can't do that. Not on Jim's podcast. So I'm on the tea. I still fell off my stool. Yeah. There's been some big changes. I know when I was listening to your last update, which was it was really interesting. You're making quite a lot of changes, I think, because of the incubator that you've been on. But you've got sort of subsections now with Vegan Business Tribe. Is that right? Am I understanding that right?
We're developing them, yes, and that's one of the great things about bringing a bunch of vegans together. Vegans have got an ethical connection. And so if you're a vegan and you're in business, you want to work with other vegans. And so that's why Vegan Business Tribe has always been so strong. If you want a graphic designer and you've got a vegan business, isn't it great if you find a vegan graphic designer? So we've always made those wonderful connections. But what makes it even stronger is if you can find people who are already in your industry, who've maybe already done what you're trying to do as well. And so one of the things we're looking to launch this year is a vegan food trucks sub-tribe. And that's not going to be run by me. That's going to be run by one of our members, Heather Zeitgeist, who's based over in the States. And Heather's brilliant, and she works with small businesses and food trucks especially, and people who've got like pop-ups and things like that, just to help them actually get more profitable. And not necessarily even to increase what they're selling, but just to make more money out of what they do sell. And so we identified that if we can bring together, say 50 people who've got vegan food trucks or vegan food stalls, we can actually talk about things which are really relevant to them and is really going to help them. We can go out and find individuals to interview that have done what they're trying to do and have got all that real kind of explicit knowledge about it as well. And that's just going to make the information that we give just so much more relevant as well. So yeah, that's something that we're really keen to be doing this year, is bringing together people within similar industries. Just then we can really get that kind of bespoke help and service to them, because this is my activism. Vegan Business Tribe is my activism. It's why I do what I do. It's why I left a extraordinarily well-paid career, working in marketing and business consultancy, to work with a bunch of vegans. And believe me, vegan businesses don't have much money to spend. So, but by doing this, I've got to have a reason for doing it. And so my reason is I can help move a vegan cause move forwards by helping you lot, helping all these vegan businesses, which are usually smaller businesses, have that slightly more impact themselves. Because I think a lot of people, that they look to set up a vegan business because they want to make a change in the world, but they don't actually scale their business to the point where they do make a change in the world, because they don't have that knowledge, they don't have the funding, they don't know how to grow a business to the point where it can actually be in a place to make more impact. And so that's what we do at Vegan Business Tribe. If I can help those businesses just grow, even if it's just by 20-30%, so they've got more resources to actually put into what they're doing, and to connect with more people, and to move more people over to veganism, and to just really help our cause, then I've done really well. That is my activism, and that's what I've been doing for the last 5 years too.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I love that. I love the fact that people can join Vegan Business Tribe and they're getting all the help from you and from Lisa and but also from other people in that community, but they're also actively giving back to the vegan community because of the work you're doing. It's a beautiful circle of kindness, really, isn't it? It's wonderful.
And there is so much knowledge within Vegan Business Tribe, and I always say, I am not the font of all that knowledge. Quite often people will send me a message and they'll say, "Oh, can I get you advice on this?" And I say, "Go post it in the forum. Go put it there, because I can tag in 3 or 4 members who I know have been through this, who I know have actually that they're experts in this. But it might be AI, it might be Facebook, it might be whatever. I can tag those people in, and they'll give you the answers, because you're vegan, they want you to succeed. Even if they've never met you yet, even if they don't know you, they want you to succeed because you're on the same mission that they are. So as much as possible, let's lean into that, and let's bring those kind of communities together."
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I think, am I right in thinking that when you started it as well, you were thinking that it would be more of a face-to-face, like the old-fashioned BNIs, like the old-fashioned sort of business meetings, and then obviously lockdown scuppered that, didn't it?
Shall I give you the story?
I think it's lovely that Sue? It's not. Yeah.
I'll give you the story. And I'm going to give you a story just because you mentioned BNI. And BNI, actually, and for those of you who don't know, BNI stands for Business Networking International. So that is a breakfast networking business group. So you turn up to have you ever done BNI, Sue?
Once.
Okay.
Once.
So you turn up
I had
to
to get
these
up
meetings.
at 5:30. I'm not doing that again.
Exactly. So you turn up at 6:30 in the morning, and the meeting starts at 7. It finishes by 8 o'clock, which is great if you own a business, because it means that it's not actually eating into your day. So I used to do BNI meetings all the time. I did it for 8 years. I actually ran my local BNI chapter, as they're called, just to make it even more mysterious sounding. So I did this for years and years, and because it's a business breakfast, because it's business breakfast networking, they give you breakfast. And if you're networking and walking around a room, what's the best breakfast to have? It's bacon butties. And so I would go to these BNI meetings, and I'd go to the buffet, I'd pick up the bacon, put it into my bap, and then you're supposed to go off and network. And I wouldn't. I'd stay next to the buffet. And I'd kind of like network with the people who were passing me. And I've always had... I've never been great at controlling what I eat, and that's something I've always had to deal with. And so I was getting to the point in my life where I was doing 2 or 3 of these night meetings a week with different kind of groups. I was eating my weight in bacon butties, and the doctor was telling me I'd have to make some changes. I was getting pre-diabetic markers coming up in my blood tests, and I thought, okay, I've got to get away from eating these bacon butties when I go to these networking meetings. And so I thought, well, what if I just go vegetarian? What if I just stop eating meat? I'll set myself this hard and fast rule that I'm not going to eat meat anymore, and then the only thing on these breakfast tables I can have is the fruit. And that's what I did. And so I said, okay, well, I'm going to stop eating meat. But because I'm not in great physical shape and because I've got all these health problems circling me at the moment, let's give up meat, let's give up coffee, and let's give up alcohol. Because I am one of those people who doesn't do things by half. Yeah, so I gave them all up
that's
in one...
a lot to give up.
I gave it all up in one go. And, Sue, I was a wreck for about 2 months, because I wasn't drinking, I wasn't having coffee to see me through the day, I wasn't gouging myself on meat. But all these things sort of tie together, because again, from running my own businesses, and it wasn't unusual going back in those days for me to be working 80 to 100 hours a week, and I would use alcohol to self-medicate through that. So it was an open secret amongst my staff that I had a bottle of whiskey in my bottom drawer in the office, and when it came to 6 p.m.
I never had you pinned as one of them.
Because when it came to 6 p.m. and the staff were heading off home, I knew I was going to be there for the rest of the evening. So the whiskey came out, I'd get the Coke out, and I'd just make myself pints of whiskey and Coke. And that's what I would use to see myself through the evening for working. And yeah, so I got to the point where I pretty much wasn't... alcohol wasn't having any effect on me at that point as well. So I knew I was in a bad place with that. I was probably a very high functioning working alcoholic, although I'd never admitted to myself at the time. So I gave up drinking, gave up meat, and also coffee. I was having like 10, 20 cups of coffee a day. So I knew these things had to go. So I just gave all those things up. And yes, it was incredibly difficult. I was a wreck, genuinely, for weeks, from withdrawal from the coffee more than anything else, from being a coffee addict. But what was really interesting was, after a while, I started to feel just so much better. I found going out, I had young kids at the time then, so going out and playing with my kids, also I had more energy, I was sleeping a lot better at night. But the girl I was with at the time, I was in a long-term, like 5-year relationship, she just had such a negative reaction to me doing that. The meat and the alcohol, she said, well, I don't want to give up eating meat, and, we're eating meals together, so that means I'm going to have to go vegetarian. I don't want to be a vegetarian. I don't want you to give up eating meat. If we go around to my friend's house to eat, or my family's house, I don't want them having to make separate meals for you, So there was real pushback from my partner at the time, and especially with the alcohol as well, because... alcohol we used socially. We had quite a big social group at the time. She didn't like the idea that if we were going out, then she wouldn't feel like she could drink because I wasn't drinking. And it actually was kind of the beginning of the end of that relationship, just because, giving up the things that we all rely on in society just showed that clear crack in that relationship. And eventually, the only way I could keep to not going back to drinking was to get rid of that part of my life, was not just that relationship, but those friends that I had, the area that I lived in, because we were always, meeting up for drinks and things like that. I ended up just, getting out of a relationship and moving to a different town to be able to not drink. And that was really hard to do. And so, yeah, going through that was quite a thing. But as I said, being vegetarian, you just keep learning and learning and learning. And, being online, learning about those chicks going along the conveyor belt into the macerator, that's what first got me looking at the egg industry. And then I think, well, what about dairy? What about milk? If I've been lied to about the egg industry, what goes on there? And kind of wish I'd never looked. And just that step by step of learning, of going from stopping eating meat, to then dairy reduction, to giving up eggs, until finally going onto a fully plant-based vegan diet. That took me about 10 years. But it's good to understand that journey, and it's good to understand that that's what other people go through as well. So I can't remember what the first question was that you asked me that led me onto that kind of tale. But there you go.
No,
that's how I went vegan.
Answer.
That is how I went vegan. But the fallout of that, was, so at the time, but by then, I was really fortunate that I was then with my now wife, Lisa, and we weren't married at the time, but we were actually working together. So we were running the agency together by that time. And this was, several years later. And Lisa had already been vegan when she was younger, and back in her 20s, and she kind of fallen off, and she was interested in becoming vegan again. So we went vegan together, which was absolutely lovely, because it meant that we were supporting each other. It was completely different to the other relationship that I'd been in. Just, we were doing this together. Lisa was really good at researching, and she was making sure that nutritionally we were sound and things like that. And she learned to make food properly. And we just had a really interesting time with it. But because we were so angry, and me especially was angry about how much I'd been fooled by animal agriculture, I thought, well, I need to do something about this. I need to help other people. And so we said, well, we've got this brilliant skill set. We're running this marketing and business growth agency. It's fairly successful. I've got a staff of 15 people working for me. So I said, well, instead of helping our skills to help these ethically neutral companies grow, let's go help vegan companies grow. And that's when we discovered that, as I've said before, vegan businesses have no money. And so we were going out there trying to get work on our normal consultancy rates, finding some brilliant businesses that we wanted to work with, but they just didn't have the budget for consultants. And so who we actually ended up working for were the people who did have the money. So we ended up going to work for people like Burger King and Pizza Hut. We actually helped Burger King launch their, and I don't talk about this much because I never know what kind of reaction people have, but we helped Burger King launch their vegan menu into the UK, because the first time they tried, they put egg-based mayo onto their vegan burgers, and it didn't go very well. And so they decided they needed to get some experts to teach them how to do it properly. So we helped them veganise part of their menu, take it through the Vegan Society certification scheme, make sure that everything they're making was vegan, talk to them about plant-based consumer buying behaviour and all this good stuff. And we made some quite money doing that for a while as well. But I just wanted to work with vegans, and I wanted to help vegans. And there's only so many meetings you can have at these very big meat-based companies. Even though you are making a difference, you are moving the needle forward. You are the vegan in the room, right at the heart of these organisations. There's only so many meetings you can have where somebody in the room says, "Yeah, but it's still important that people eat meat," and you kind of just sat there grimacing, stroke grinning, and yeah. So yeah, we eventually got
I didn't know that. That's
that.
Really interesting. And isn't it awful that we have this shame? And I've heard this so many times, and of like, oh, well, I used to do this, or the thing of like you saying helping Burger King. You've pushed that forward. You've given yes, it's junk food, but people want junk food because our palates are all designed now because of big food. They're all designed to want junk food. But what you've done is allowed vegans to have it, but also mostly non-vegans are going to be eating those burgers, is what I'm led to believe. And that's incredible that you've done that. But I heard in your voice that there's almost like a shame of it, like, oh, well, what are people going to think of me? And it's terrifying that within our own community, there's that.
Yeah.
There's that push. I had a conversation with someone just the other week. There's a brilliant organic fruit and veg shop here near Cardigan in a town near me. And somebody said to me, oh, yeah, but you don't want to buy your fruit and veg there because they're not vegan, the people that run it.
Yeah.
And you sort of go, well, all right, I'll shop at Tesco's then, shall I? Is that better? Because they're certainly not vegan. And in their shop, they're selling like millions of dead there's corpses all over the place. I would much rather go to the fruit and veg shop, and they're vegetarian because they're selling eggs in there. I'd much rather go there than that. But also then it's like, don't try and shame me into my shopping choices, because I'm already vegan. It's really difficult. And yeah, I'd imagine you were nervous about that because you're going to get a pushback from parts of our community. And
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely. I mean, it's something that myself and Lisa, we had a long discussion before we took that contract on, of saying, okay, do we want to people to know that we've been paid money by Burger King to help them? And yeah, because we took that money and we used it to start Vegan Business Tribe. So it was a little bit of Robin Hood scenario of taking as much money as we physically could from that company, to actually one, help them put vegan food on the street. Fantastic. But two, to actually start a community like Vegan Business Tribe. So I'm quite happy with that. I'll allow people to have a different view, and that's 100% fine as well, because we've all got to come to our own view on these things. But that was my view. And I think the longer I've been vegan, actually, no, not the longer I've been vegan, the more I've got involved with animal advocacy and the actual food system change movement. So the more I've got to work with people like ProVeg, and ProVeg, they're based in Berlin, Germany, but they employ 200 people around the world to basically make the food system change. And they've invested in so many different companies, and they brought us onto the incubator and things like this. And I think the more I've got involved with that, the more I've realized that actually the quickest way to a vegan world isn't necessarily by trying to make everybody vegan. Because making vegans, it's hard. It's bloody hard. It took me 10 years. And I've seen so many people I know who have turned vegan and then they're not vegan all of a sudden again. I mean, we see it in the news all the time as well. And that will keep happening for as long as the system is set up as it is. For as long as it is the normal to eat animals and animal products, it's really hard for people to stay vegan if they haven't made that full ethical connection. And so
it is. Yeah.
yeah. And so a lot of time
I think you're right. Even as vegans, you have to look at yourself and look at the people in our community and say, well, if I'm going to give out that, then you've got to be really, really confident that your life isn't being dictated to. How many people realistically are not working in restaurants and cafes? And, it's very difficult to gain your wage from a vegan source. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. My shop is there. My shop might be vegan. But, everything I sell in there is vegan. But the people's money that's coming through the door, I would say probably 1% of that is from vegans. The rest of it is from non-vegans. A lot of it's from dairy farmers. But I'm still taking their money. You can't give it out, and
it's hard.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's a hard thing to go. It's a hard thing to kind of accept as a methodology as well. That if you're wanting to reduce animal suffering. And that's why we do what we do, because we desperately want to stop these animals suffering and dying. And part of that means not having them there in the first place, because if nobody was eating meat, they wouldn't be breeding these animals, and we would still have the animals in the world, but not in that really intense way that they are at the moment. And so if we actually want to lessen animal suffering, what's the quickest way to do that? And somebody will say, well, the world going vegan, and 100%, but that's hard. That is really hard to turn somebody vegan and to keep them vegan. And if we think that 200 million land animals are killed for food every single day, that is ridiculous. 200 million were killed today, 200 million will kill tomorrow. Turning one or two people vegan, that's not having a big impact on those figures. It's not removing that many animals from that food system. Whereas if you can get the world's population just to eat 1% less meat, that's 2 million animals a day that aren't been raised, aren't been killed, that are not in that food system anymore. And so let's get behind that as well. Now, I want people to turn vegan. And absolutely, if I'm speaking to somebody one-on-one, my agenda there is, right, I'm going to educate you. I'm going to try and bring you along the same journey that I went through to become vegan. But for all these people I can't touch, can I be involved with something that's going to help reduce their meat consumption by 1%, and that saves 200 million animals? And then maybe in a month's time, they reduce it by 1% more. That's another 2 million animals saved, and so on and so on and so on. So, that's got to be happening alongside it. And I really respect the activists that are out there on the street, the Joey Carbstrongs, Vegan Muscle, some of our Vegan Business Tribe members, and actually having those conversations with people. But you've got to move people to that place where they will have a conversation with an activist, where they will watch a video,
got to meet people where they're
documentary. Exactly. And if somebody's already thought, said, oh, actually, I've tried some vegan food and I have reduced my meat and it was quite nice and I quite enjoyed it, they're going to be more open to actually watch that documentary and to have that conversation with you. So let's do some of the work to get people in the same field of us to start with. And then once we're in there, then we've got the amazing people out there who are doing the street activism and the one-on-one stuff. They're going to bring them in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good point. Do you think if you, let's just say that you were, I can't say you were born vegan, but let's just say we could say,
I
right,
was
vegan
born
business
vegan. I was born vegan. Everybody is born vegan until their parents decide they're not. I've said that to people in the supermarket. They say, is your baby vegan? If they say, is your baby vegan? I say, all babies are vegan until you decide they're not.
Yeah, true.
So I was born vegan.
You're completely right. No,
Sorry,
you're
Sue.
completely right. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, God, yeah. That's one of them things again, isn't it? That's the, yeah. If you weren't in business consultancy, if I could say to you now, right, is £1 million, I want you to start a vegan business, what would you, I don't mean from a gains point of view, I mean what would your passion project be? If you could be like, I know this is your passion project, but if it couldn't be this, what would it be? What would you be like, well, actually, I might do that for 6 months?
Oh my gosh, it's so hard.
Just for fun, not like for money.
Because you are right. In many ways, Vegan Business Tribe is my passion project. And, you know...
Of course it is. That's why you're so good at it.
It's not something I do for the money. You can 100% believe me
people
there.
are in vegan. I can tell you this as a member of Vegan Business Tribe. People are in Vegan Business Tribe because of the incredible help that they get from you, the incredible... everything that you and Lisa give and help us with. But they're also in Vegan Business Tribe because of you. You're the product.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's you.
And thank you for saying that. And I'll accept that as well, because as you said at the start of this conversation, I do wear a mask a little bit. I do have a persona that I put on a little bit, and so that is to create that energy and that thoughtfulness and things like that as well. But thank you for saying that. But yeah, if I had a few £1 million to do anything that I could as a business that's going to maybe help the vegan cause or do a passion project, I think what I would do is I'd try to get that £1 million into the hands of people who are just doing some amazing things, but the thing stopping them actually scaling is they just don't have the cash to do it as well. And that's why I've been a big fan of... Yeah. So I don't think I'd necessarily take it and do something with myself. I'd spend a lot of time finding those people who make things happen very quickly. So I've had successful businesses, and I've been moderately successful in my life, which has been fantastic. But sometimes I meet individuals and they are like that. You speak to them on Friday, they've got the business started on Monday, they're making a profit by Wednesday, they're kind of handing the business over to managers coming in to run it for them like a month later. And that just fascinates me. And going back to ProVeg, the founder of ProVeg, Sebastian Joy, he's one of those people. And I've been fortunate to do a little bit of work with him recently, and just seeing how quickly he sets up new ideas and new movements and gets them running within weeks and making money within months and things like that, that always impresses me. So I think if we had the money, it's about being effective. Let's find those people who can do things really quickly, who just don't know what they don't know, and just like run into things. And let's
just don't overthink it, just do it.
Exactly, yeah. And I'd love to spend 6 months maybe just working with those people and say, right, let's find 10 people. Again, we have Vegan Business Tribe members like that. Rory Cockshaw, and I'm not sure if you've
he's
got him.
Great, isn't he?
Yeah. I don't know if you've got him on your interview list or not.
I've already interviewed him.
Wonderful. Well, you'll already know what he is then, you know. And he just quit his business and set up his company making vegan board games, sold out within months. He's already launched 2 other businesses off the back of it. And every time I talk to him, he's just launched a new idea in a business and he's selling it.
Yeah,
and
he's got his vegan dictionary now, which is amazing.
I have a copy on my living room table. Yeah.
And he's a kid. So I couldn't believe when I talked to him. He's like 21, 22, and I was like, what?
He's young. Yeah, exactly. But just that energy. So yeah, let's harness more of that in the world.
That's what we need.
Yeah. So there are some people. I mean, the whole reason that businesses fail or succeed, 90% of the time, it's got nothing to do with the product. It's got nothing to do with what somebody's selling. It's all about the person founding it. And you know, do they have belief in themselves? Are they really dealing with self-limiting belief systems? And if they are, they're always going to struggle to have a successful business, and it's the people who just seem to not have that, who just don't care if they fail or if they win. They just throw everything into it, kind of assuming that everything's going to work itself out. So yeah, I'd love to support more people like that if I had the investment cash to do that.
Exactly the right answer. That's the answer I expected. What I wanted was, I'm gonna like invest in silly hats. I just wanted to. That's what I wanted. When I am gonna make vegan, I don't know, clown shoes.
Oh gosh, I know, but again, and there are some weird vegan businesses out there that I do come across, and sometimes I get on a call with them. Yeah, I get a call with them. I think, actually, that's so weird. That might just work. Because a lot of the time, if you've got a bit of a weird business, if you're doing something that nobody else is doing, then that's so much easier to actually get promotion and PR and people to write about you. So sometimes those businesses work out really well. But no, I'm much too. I plan and I consider things and I sit down. So if I had that money, I'd be saying, what would I do with it? I mean, there's a lot of things kind of adjacent to veganism, but I'm very passionate about. Especially things like homelessness. I do think as a society, nobody should have to be sat outside the supermarket begging. It just shouldn't happen in our world. If someone is there, we've got the resources as a society to say, come in, have something to eat. Let's talk about why you're here. Let's talk about why you've fallen out of the system. So that's something I've always been really passionate about. And I think had I have not have got so involved with veganism, that's probably something I'd have got involved with instead. I've got a very good local charity here called Simon on the Streets in West Yorkshire that they actually go out and fund helping people and working with people who are homeless to try and improve their lives and things like that. So that's something that I'm very passionate about. But also, early years education. We've already spoken a lot about vegan kids, but I volunteered for many years for the Young Enterprise Scheme at my local high school, where I would go in with a room full of extraordinarily rowdy teenagers and try and help them launch their own little businesses and things like that. Because I think that whole idea of just widening their view of the world about what they might be able to do as a career, they don't have to just go to college, go to uni, go work in an office and then just sit in a cubicle till they're 50. They can do different stuff. They can have a different kind of life. And that wasn't taught to me when I was young. So I'm really interested also to go talk to children just about, being entrepreneurial and maybe starting their own businesses too.
Yeah, it's incredible that you did that. Do you think that you, which do you think came first? Do you think your interest and your eyes being open to other things like homelessness is because has that got better because you're vegan, or do you think you've always been like that and that's probably why you saw that video and it had such an impact? Is it your nature? I guess.
I think there's been a little bit of that nature, because it's that's why when people turn vegan, they do get angry. Because, and it's why people are so defensive as well, because we all think we're compassionate people. We all think we're nice people. We all think that we care. But when you turn vegan, you've actually had to face that hypocrisy that you obviously didn't care. So it's really hard. And so, yes, I think that was always there. It's a conversation I like to have as well. And we've moved into a few kind of controversial areas during this conversation. But this whole idea about caring and being a compassionate person, I've known farmers who I would have called very compassionate people. I actually come from a farming family. My mother worked for farms and fisheries. She was a civil servant. My grandparents ran a farm. They were actually my family were Canadian prairie settlers, so they ran farms over in Canada. Came back to the UK, bought up land and continued running farms there. I spent a lot of time on my grandparents' farm growing up. And looking at someone like my grandmother, and she's not been with us for many, many years now. She reached her mid-90s when she died. Farmer all her life. Lots of fruit and veg, but some animal agriculture there as well. And she loved animals. She absolutely was an animal lover. She would have paintings of her horses on the wall that she'd ridden when she was little. She had about 20 cats that they kept around the farm. She loved the animals. But at the same time, on a Sunday, she'd happily go grab a chicken and wring its neck and then sit down and pluck it. And it's kind of that sort of disconnect that we all have to face. Because, again, I've spoken to farmers and you can tell how much they actually care about the animals. And it's hard as a vegan to hear me saying that farmers care about animals, but some do. And I've met plenty of farmers, not plenty of farmers. I've met farmers who they turn some of the animals that they keep into pets because they've made a connection with that one individual animal, and then they can't send it off to slaughter. And they might keep a certain sheep running around, or they might keep a pig in the barn that's kept separate from the rest because they've made a relationship with that animal. And so I think
it's just
yeah, it is. And so I think their level of kind of hypocrisy, it's something that we shout about a lot, but it's no different to what we face in turning veganism as well. So yeah, I think I've always considered myself to be a compassionate person, and it wasn't until I turned vegan that I actually felt that I was a compassionate person. But I still do walk past the people outside the supermarket asking for change. I've not had real cash for years. I just carry a card around these days, and every time I feel bad about it, and every time I feel that hypocrisy that I say I care about things like this, but I'm not getting down and trying to help these people. So yeah, that will always be there. It will always be there.
Yeah, it's really hard, and we can't do it all. This is the frustration of I've got one question for you, and this is a question that I've asked every guest that I've had on, and we've kind of touched on similar subjects, but it is, if you could go back, forget veganism, don't forget veganism, obviously, but not specifically about veganism, but if you could go back to your childhood and tell yourself something, give yourself a bit of advice, or just tell yourself something, what would it be?
Oh, gosh. You should send that question ahead, Sue.
No, there's a reason I
had a really good think about that.
I'm not that kind.
It's a hard one, and it is a hard one because it goes into an area that I genuinely do not talk about, and I don't often talk about my childhood. So I did not have a bad childhood at all. I had a very privileged childhood. Both my parents worked. I was well looked after. I had quite a big family that I was part of as well. But I had a slightly strange childhood because I had very stressed out parents, as I think a lot of people did maybe back in the 70s and the 80s. And it was a different way of living. And I know that I picked up a lot of that stress off my parents. And so I think one thing which would have made my life a lot better was kind of going back and maybe learning some of the things I learned in later life. So in my second business, we used to do a lot of looking after websites, web hosting, looking after people's emails. We were looking after maybe 1,000 different people's email addresses and things like that. And when anything went wrong with our servers, 1,000 people would try to contact us at once. And so, that's not a great place to be when you're trying to run a business. It's partially why I wanted to get out of that sector as well. And you'll find some people, when they're in that sort of situation, like the staff I employed, they're like, okay, yeah, servers are down, it's fine, yeah, we're getting some phone calls. Whereas I would just be so stressed about it. I'd be absolutely, oh my God, this is the worst thing that could ever happen to me. I got to the point where I ended up going to counselling about this because of the stress that I was getting through running those sort of businesses. And going to counselling was kind of the best thing that ever happened to me because I got taught tools. I got given these tools about how to actually disconnect yourself from an emotion. I got taught about how to do things like catastrophic thinking and worry time, to actually sit down and say, what is the worst possible thing that could happen? Work it out. And then once you've done that, you can then work out that actually there are things you can do in that situation. It's not going to work out as bad as you think it's going to be. And so I've had to work really, really hard to actually improve my own mental mindset from my mid-20s onwards. And that's why I think at Vegan Business Tribe, I produce a lot of content about mindset because I've done a lot around that. And I genuinely wish I could go back to the young David Pannell and say, let me teach you about mindfulness. Let me teach you about catastrophic thinking. Let me teach you about some, even Buddhism concepts about actually, if somebody is angry with you, and my parents were angry with me quite a lot, if somebody is angry with you, that's not your fault. that's their fault. And you do not have to accept that emotion. You do not have to engage with that emotion. Imagine it's like if somebody brings you a present and they put the present at your feet and you don't particularly want that present. Whose present is that? Well, it's the person who brought it to you. They still own that. And that's the same with negative emotions from people as well. If you don't accept that present, you don't accept that emotion, you don't have to engage with it 100%. And so, yes, I wish that's something I could go back and teach myself. It's something that we're already teaching Arwen to be more present and to have better mental health. But I think, yes, just like everybody who was raised in the 70s and 80s, I think that's a problem that we all face.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us. I really appreciate that. Sorry to put you on the spot, but yeah, I think we're about the same age, aren't we, you and I? And
I'd hate to guess, Sue. I don't want to offend you.
We are the same age. I'm sure we've had this conversation. I'm sure we're the same age.
I think we are. Yeah,
I think I might be a year. I think I'm 2 years older than you, actually.
Maybe. I would never ask a lady her name, and I definitely wouldn't.
Where's the lady?
I was going to say, I'd never ask a lady her age, and I'd definitely never ask you.
Yeah, how old are you? I'm pretty sure we're the same age. But the point is that I think when people say, oh, I don't want to get older, and I'm like, I'm loving being older. I love it. I love every day I get older because every day I learn something new about myself or have these conversations, and I just think, yeah, do you know what? We were all right, actually. We've survived it. We've survived the childhood in the 80s, which was insane.
Yeah,
and
we have.
And actually, getting older is brilliant because you do get all this value, all this wisdom, and it's incredible.
It is, but I think also, we had a different kind of childhood as well. And again, another thing we're doing with Arwen is she has 0 screen time, and she's just coming up to 2 years.
Oh, really?
2 years old. Yes, so she has 0 screen time. She's never watched the television. We've never put a Postman Pat DVD on her or anything like that. In fact, we got rid of our TVs in our houses. So she gets no screen time at all, and it just means that to her, a book is absolutely fascinating. She will sit for a good half an hour just looking through a book. She has such a great attention span. Her numeracy skills are probably about a year ahead of where she should be, just because she reads all the time. That's amazing. And we read to her. But that's kind of the upbringing that we had as well. There wasn't the electronics and the things as well. So yeah, I think having that kind of upbringing where we can sit and read a book and we can have that attention span, that's a really great thing to do as well. And I think when you're older, one of the wonderful things about being older is you can give back, and you can give back to the next generation. And that's why I have always done things like the Young Enterprise Scheme with schools. It's why I have worked with young children. I helped my local college. I helped them write their what was it called? Their FDA. So I helped them write their FDA in design and marketing, just to go back and help these people. And I was the graduation day speaker that year and things like this. And it's just because it's wonderful when you've got something to actually give back, to say, look, I've made mistakes, I've learnt all these things. Now I'm going to help you learn all these things as well, so that you start off from a better place than I did, and then you can do even more great things than I did as well. So that's what I'm hoping to do with Arwen. That's what I'm hoping to do with any young person, and I think that's really important too.
Yeah, it is. It's really important. Thank you for doing that. That's incredible. Where can people find you? Where can people find David Pannell? Where can they find
Right here. I'm always sat here in my little recording studio. So yes, if you want to find out more about me, Vegan Business Tribe is the obvious first place to go. Go look up veganbusinesstribe.com. Come and find me on LinkedIn, because Vegan Business Tribe is pretty much my thing, and it's what I'm best known for. I do other things as well, but online I like to promote Vegan Business Tribe. At events, I like to promote Vegan Business Tribe. But come and link with me on LinkedIn, because there's some other things that I sometimes get involved with as well, which are quite exciting as well, such as the incubator with ProVeg. I'm going back to do some work with them this year and things like that. So yeah, Vegan Business Tribe. Go check out the website, sign up with us, find out more about me. Come and link with me on LinkedIn.
Do it. It's brilliant.
And please send me a message and say hello.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to use your word. That's brilliant. That's your...
Are we done now? Can I get the kettle on?
All right. You can go. What you can do now is you can go and set up your crazy hat shop.
I can set up my crazy hat shop. I own 2 crazy hats. So, and one of them is yours.
I know.
I know. One of the crazy hats is one that you sent me. So there you go.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there you go. Thank you so much, David. I really appreciate your time.
See you later.
Thanks so much. Love you lots.